A soft drizzle had begun to fall over the quiet city, painting the cracked sidewalks with silver streaks and giving the night air a heavy stillness. In the heart of an abandoned alleyway, where broken glass lay scattered, like forgotten dreams and the stench of rot lingered from the overflowing dumpsters, an 8-year-old girl stood frozen in place. Her name was Lila. She wore no shoes, her small feet caked with mud and bruises. Her blonde hair was tangled and wild, hanging like a curtain over her dirt-smeared face. Her dress, once white with tiny pink flowers, now hung in tatters, exposing her bony shoulders to the chill. But it wasn't the cold that made her tremble. She had been wandering the streets for hours, scrounging for half-eaten sandwiches and trash cans and chasing shadows, when fear crept too close. But tonight felt different. There had been a sound, something faint and broken. A cry, not the meow of alley cats, not the drunken shouts from the main road, but a soft, pitiful wail, the kind of cry that pulls at your soul and won't let go. Her eyes, wide with disbelief and fear, were fixed on the small form behind the dumpster. A baby. A newborn, wrapped in a filthy gray blanket, its tiny fists shaking in the cold, skin blue around the lips, chest rising and falling with weak sobs. Lila couldn't move at first. Her mind raced. A baby here? Alone, she edged closer, her bare feet crunching over broken pieces of glass. She reached the child, dropped to her knees, and stared. The baby was alive, barely. Its face was wet with tears and grime, and yet its eyes, though mostly shut, twitched and fluttered, like butterflies trying to stay in the world. Lila reached out her hand, trembling. She hadn't touched anything this clean and fragile in years. Gently, she brushed the blanket away from its face, revealing more of the newborn's tiny body. She looked around. The alley was empty, cold and too quiet. "Who would leave a baby here?" she whispered. No answer. Only the sound of distant thunder and the hum of a street lamp flickering. Lila looked up. On the hill far beyond the dark roofs, the outline of a grand mansion glowed with warm golden lights, its windows lit like promises. She'd seen that mansion before. She used to imagine what it must be like inside: soft beds, warm food, people who smiled without cruelty. But that place was a fairy tale. She cradled the baby in her arms. It was so small, so light. She held it close, offering what little warmth her tiny frame could give. "It's okay," she murmured, her voice shaking. "I won't leave you." She didn't know what to do. She had no parents, no home, no food. And now, this baby. But something in her heart had shifted. Lila had never been needed before. Not like this. She remembered the old woman from 2 streets down. Madame Ruth, she sold soup and sometimes gave Lila leftover crusts of bread. Maybe she could help. With the baby clutched close, Lila rose to her feet and began to walk, slowly, carefully, avoiding puddles and sharp edges. The rain was falling harder now, and the baby whimpered again, shivering. Lila whispered lullabies, old songs her mother used to hum before everything fell apart. She arrived at Ruth's shack 20 minutes later, breathless, soaked to the bone. She knocked weakly. The door creaked open. Madame Ruth peered out, her face tired and sunken. Her eyes widened as they dropped to the bundle in Lila's arms. "Child, what?" "I found her," Lila gasped. "Behind the dumpster, alone, please. She's so cold." Without another word, Ruth opened the door wider and ushered them in. The warmth hit Lila like a wave. She stepped in and sank to the floor. Ruth took the baby, examined her quickly, then wrapped her in warm towels. She placed her near the fire and began to feed her with a dropper. "She's underweight," Ruth muttered. "She needs help." "Real help? She'll be okay, right?" Lila asked. Ruth looked at her for a long moment. "I'll do what I can." That night Lila didn't sleep. She sat by the fire, watching the baby's tiny chest rise and fall. Hours passed. Dawn began to creep through the windows. Ruth handed Lila a bowl of soup. "You did a good thing, child. I couldn't just leave her." "I know." The next few days passed in a blur. Ruth took the baby to a nurse she knew. They cleaned her, fed her, and slowly the baby began to gain color. Lila stayed. She helped. She became the baby's guardian shadow. News of the baby spread, and soon police arrived. They asked questions, checked hospitals. No one claimed the child. No mother, no relative. One officer, a kind man named Detective Farrow, took a special interest. He saw the bond between Lila and the baby. He saw how Lila refused to leave her side, how she guarded her like a lion cub. He started to look into Lila's background. She had no last name, no records. Another lost child in a city of ghosts. But Pharaoh dug deeper, and then one afternoon, something unbelievable happened. Pharaoh returned to Ruth's shack with news. He sat Lila down, looked her in the eyes. "Lila," he said softly, "I found something. It's about you." She blinked. "You were reported missing 8 years ago. Your name is Lila Astor." She said nothing. "You're the daughter of Richard Astor. That mansion on the hill." She shook her head. "No, that can't be. I don't remember. You were taken during a break-in. They never found you. Your father never stopped looking." Lila stared at the baby in her arms. She didn't understand. A mansion, a father. Pharaoh smiled gently. "He's alive. He's waiting." It took days for her to believe. But eventually Lila agreed to go. They drove up the winding roads to the mansion on the hill. Lila, wearing a clean dress for the first time in years, held the baby tight. The gates opened. The mansion stood like a memory long buried. At the front steps a man waited. Gray-haired, tall, tears in his eyes. "Lila," he whispered. Something in his voice pulled at her soul. She stepped forward. Her legs trembled. I don't remember you," she said.